Aggie, I am Phil Olitea. I'm going to cover my camera for just a second because I am walking out of the mall. I just saw the movie Weapons, and what a movie that was for the future. Well, let's just start there. What a movie. I warned the people who were interested in me doing this morning that I might do a spoiler heavy review, and so I'm going to talk about this throughout the week, and I'm not going to review it. Actually, I'm just going to kind of talk about it while I walk up to the tent, and then when I get back to the tent, we're going to play Final Fantasy 3, and I'll end up talking about it there, and I'll end up talking about a lot. I'll end up talking about this movie a bunch, because what a fucking movie. But I want to actually talk about synchronicity and the power of random. I didn't watch any trailers, and I didn't inform myself of what was out. I just looked at the posters that were available on the walls as I walked through the theater to get to the kiosk to be able to buy my ticket. And then I just looked at the posters that were available for the time slots, or available for, whatever, that we're going to be playing tonight. Comments are working when I have my camera on, Madge. It's good to see you, buddy. Yeah, when I'm using my camera, the comments work just fine. But when I screencast, the comments don't always show up. And so what I did is I just kind of intuited my way to picking a movie, and I just picked the one that had the poster that seemed to grab my eye, and it was called Weapons. And now I'm not gonna act like I haven't seen the poster somewhere, whether I had seen it the other day as I was walking through the mall, because I did a couple of laps through the mall because I was surprised that we didn't have a Hot Topic while I was getting my battery bank, whenever that was, yesterday or yeah, I'm going to screencast later, Madge. But yeah, you do never check my lives. So yeah, I just picked the movie at random, and I had seen the title Weapons, so I was already interested in that. And if you've seen the poster, or if you haven't seen the poster, it's this almost entirely black field that looks like a yard or something with what looks like kids in it. And then I didn't read what the caption says. I didn't even want to spoil myself that much. I didn't even want to influence my decision that much. By reading what there's a caption at the top of the trailer, or a caption at the top of the poster, and I didn't even want to read that much. I just wanted the title and just what felt like it was gonna grab me. And I don't even want to tell you the genre of this movie now that I've seen it. I don't even want to spoil that much. I highly recommend you go watch this movie. It is an absolute masterclass. Hello, Rolando. It is an absolute masterclass. Weapons. Absolute masterclass in suspense. From the moment the movie opens on a black screen, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying that there's a kid's voiceover, black screen, kid's voiceover, and an extremely overlong voiceover at the beginning of the movie on a black field says, a lot of people die in really weird ways in this movie, and it absolutely does not disappoint if that's what you like in a movie. But man, it's 2 hours. It's a full 2 hours, and suspense. And so what I actually want to talk about is a little bit the intersection of synchronicity and the random and Oracle, because I picked this movie out at random, and then it ended up being about everything that I've been talking on my channel for the last month. Oh, it was incredibly interesting. Incredibly interesting. It's a mystery, and it's not a horror movie. The teenagers that were in the theater were all talking about how it was a horror movie. They go, well, that was a pretty decent horror movie as horror movies go. And I'm like, that wasn't a horror movie, and that was an absolute masterclass in suspense. The definition of suspense in film matters. So basically the person that innovated, or that made suspense films feel like horror movies is Alfred Hitchcock with the nose and the belly. And what he said about suspense is that the way it works is that you show the audience, rather, if you have a scene with a group of people sitting around a table, and then suddenly a bomb goes off, and then there's the start of your scene, or there's your scene, is the bomb going off and the aftermath of the bomb going off. That's certainly surprising. The audience are most certainly going to be surprised by what has happened, but it's not suspenseful. Suspense is where the audience knows that there's a bomb, sees everybody at the table, and knows when the bomb is going to go off. Okay? And so this movie opens telling you that a lot of people are going to die in a lot of really weird ways. Yeah, for sure. Ghost Samurai, Alfred Hitchcock, followed by Twilight Zone is an 80s memory for him. I don't have that memory. I don't remember the 80s, but for sure, I know that I'm aware of that cultural phenomenon. But the movie opens showing you nothing and telling you what's going to happen in the movie. And then it's 2 hours, and then it's over. Boom, it just done. What a great movie. What a great movie. I love mysteries, so like I just happen to love mysteries. I didn't mean to pick a mystery. What I thought I had picked initially, it's got the blonde girl from that Ozarks show on Netflix that I haven't watched. So I've wanted to watch her. So I was excited to see her. And then she plays an eminently unlikable character. Just an eminently unlikable character. And I didn't figure out why she's so unlikable, why they wrote her the way they did. Hey, Gerald. I didn't understand why they wrote her character the way they did until the final scene of the movie. I went, oh, brilliant cinema. Well done. She's an eminently unlikable teacher. And then so moving past that, because I don't want to spoil anything about this movie. It's brilliant. The cinema, the way it was shot, the way the story is told, the way they use voiceover work, everything about it is brilliant. I would say it's a masterclass. Brilliant, perfect movie. The other people around me didn't like it as much, but I like a movie that's going to challenge me and make me think, to engage me. And what I can say about that movie is it got a what the fuck and a nope out of me. And so if you can get a physical, like a verbal reaction out of me in a movie, yeah, you're not the number one chatter, Madge. If you can get a verbal reaction out of me in a theater, you've made a perfect movie. I don't know if you want to be warned about it, but I really like that it was a mystery. They started out as like this murder / kidnapping, disappearance mystery, but it has flavors of the supernatural happening. And so right out at the beginning of the movie, they tell you this is a mystery, weird shit's gonna happen, lots of people are gonna die in weird ways, and then it goes about foreshadowing the rest of the movie in a brilliant way that rewards rewatch. This is a movie that I would put on in the background while I was writing or something, or playing a video game. I would watch this movie a lot of times. And then what they do is they shift perspectives of the story and the timeline of the story by telling you that they're using vignettes, and each of the vignettes is named for their POV character. And so when they switched from her to Josh Brolin, the movie became a movie that I was comfortable with instantly, because his character makes sense. Her character didn't make sense to me. Why are they writing her in this way? It made sense for a suspense movie, but it didn't make sense for the kind of movie that I didn't know I was watching yet. Boy, you understand maybe what I'm saying. And then Josh Brolin shows up, and I'm like, Cable. I know Cable. I know No Country for Old Men. I know this guy, and I know his character. His character is instantly likable, instantly vulnerable, has instant pathos the moment you see him. Instant pathos for what this movie is telling you is happening. And then his character starts making really good choices. Everybody before him, they do the Stephen King thing where they set this in anywhere America. It's just anywhere small to middle-sized town America. And so all of these people are making abhorrent middle class, middle America, small town America anti-hero behavior. They're doing all of the things that nobody should do, but that everybody does all the times in these environments, in these small towns. And so nobody's likable until Josh Brolin shows up on screen, and you're like, okay, sure, this guy is who he is, and he's going through the things that he's going through, but he's instantly likable, instant pathos. I instantly feel like I'm watching a movie where the characters are believable and someone is making good decisions. Hey, Will. And so if you're watching a movie where someone is making smart choices, you're not watching a horror movie. You're watching a suspense flick. And so suspense movies, they hold together. Hey, you did catch one of my night lives. That's right. Thanks for being here, guys. If you're watching a movie where people are making smart choices, you're watching a suspense movie, which means that you're actually following a story that follows Agatha Christie's rules. And I grew up, my favorite book when I was a kid was And Then There Were None, which is also known as 10 Little Indians, I think. That's not a horror movie. It's not a horror book. It's a suspense book. Because you know what's going to happen. It's an Agatha Christie novel. I went and saw, it's called Weapons. Yeah. Madge is in the chat for those of you who've heard me talk about him. And he just says hi to everybody. But I grew up watching mystery movies and reading Agatha Christie and other detective fiction with my mother. And so this is it's not a detective movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it wants you to guess what's going on. It wants you to try to oh, it's incredible. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's worth every minute of the 2-hour watch time. The people beside me were starting to get really anxious, but they were starting to get really anxious because they ramp up the stakes of what is happening in that movie they don't use acts. That's the thing, is they use vignettes. So as the vignette cycle starts to feel like it's running over long, because that's another thing that this movie does that I personally like, is it intentionally runs every scene over long so that it gets intense. It gets hard to watch. I grew up with the Hardy Boys. And so one of the games my mom and I used to play is we would watch Law and Order, or we would read the Hardy Boys or Agatha Christie or whatever. And she would be prodding me the whole time to figure out who the bad guy is. Who's the bad guy? What's going on? What's the murder weapon? How did they get out or into or out of the locked room, right? If you're familiar with closed or locked room mysteries. Those are one of my very favorite intellectual games to play, and that's how this genre was created, was this intellectual games between you and the author, or you and the development team, the film crew, whatever, you and the filmmakers. That's what I was trying to say. I've been talking about video games a lot. And so it's a game. And this movie very early on invites you to try to figure it out, because it tells you that the cops were incompetent within the first 15 or 20 seconds. So they're inviting you to figure it out. Figure out what the fuck is going on. And so at every stage I'm going, I recognize this. I know this because the screenwriter and I, the director and I, have similar interests. So I recognize his motifs, but And what I'm trying to say is I figured it out. I figured it out pretty early. I was like, okay, so this is going to be that kind of movie with this kind of plot. And then when he hits you with showing you effectively the monster, showing you what's going on, just letting you glimpse it for a second, I went, the fuck? Nope. I actually did that out loud. I went, nope, out loud in the theater and looked away when they showed the thing that's actually happening. I haven't seen Jeepers Creepers. That came out when I was in high school, just before I started watching movies. And so, if you've seen Arrested Development, they make so many references to Stephen King and Hollywood horror movies, and there's so many references where what you can tell by the reference that it's not an homage. It's a we did it cooler. And this movie has seriously huge balls for a suspense flick. Usually suspense movies are a tight 75 minutes. Get in, get out, be done. And this movie makes you sit with how uncomfortable and weird and violent. I had to look away from all of the violence. I don't need that shit living in my head. But I will spoil you on one character. I'll spoil you on one character. There's a homeless junkie that has his own vignette. And when he died, I had a tear roll down my cheek. I went, oh, I just died in this movie. I am not a junkie. I've never seen a needle. I've obviously never smoked heroin out of a pipe in a tent in the woods. But seeing him dive into his tent to get away from the thing, that got to me for a second. It got to me for a second. I was like, oh, I might have trouble falling asleep tonight. As I run back to my tent. Yeah, that was a beautiful surprise. And so just giving it up to intuition and letting intuition pick what I watched worked out in a big way for me, man. That movie hit all the spots of all of my interests, so I'll be able to refer to that movie as an example of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about XYZ whatever for years to come. And I don't know why we have a bunch of horror movies out, like actual horror movies out right now, but that one I'm glad I watched. That one's the kind of movie that if I could get a bunch of people to watch it and then sit around and just talk about, that was cool. And then I'll do a spoiler version after this has had time to marinate, and then I've had time to talk about it without spoiling it a few times as material for the channel. But what an incredible movie. I'm seeing you guys, Ghost Samurai. I'm seeing you guys talking. I gotta get this out before I get back to the tent, and then I'm gonna go live and play some Final Fantasy 3. And so highly recommend going and checking out Weapons. And Josh Brolin was an executive producer on it as well. He was great, tour de force. The ending is so overlong. The end scene, the climax is so overlong and so ridiculous that it elicited contagious, uncontrollable, uncomfortable. Please God, let this, instead of doing fake endings, they did an overlong ending. And it's so uncomfortable that it elicited actual out loud laughter in the theater. From me, even. I'm like, oh my God, please, why is this happening? But the reason that the reason that the film does that is because they chose to live it right in that Stephen King version of America, and they were upping the stakes, upping the reality, upping the intelligence of the characters so that the characters aren't constantly making stupid choices so that they can be in a horror movie. They're making smart choices because they're in a suspense movie. And so the end is actually the argument ad absurdum for the premise. It was brilliant, hilarious, and horrible to watch. I looked away. It was gross. I don't like to see all that. Hello, Stacy. I don't like to see all that violence. I don't need to know what a body looks like when it's being torn apart. It's being discorporated or dismembered by hand. I just don't need to know what that looks like. Even in the minds of a very, very dedicated special effects artist. That's what they're called. But what a great movie. Yeah, not a fan of the images. Huge fan of the suspense though. I gotta say though, if that fucking kid had snorted his boogers one more fucking time during a completely silent scene, I was gonna dump my popcorn on his fucking head. But then he had an actual panic attack during the climax. He was actually doing this and breathing hard during the climax. So I feel vindicated for at least not panicking. Shit, it's later than I thought it was. And what's up, Will? I think I'm done. Because I'm almost to the Dollar Tree, so you got maybe 2 more minutes of my time. And then I'm gonna hit the tent and Final Fantasy 3. Yes, I see you, Stacy. Huh. Well, I hope that wasn't a bad sign. I just saw the woods immediately around where I live light up. I hope that wasn't a fire just suddenly dousing itself or something. Not much, Stacy. And I'm here for you, Will. You got about a minute and a half, though. Once I hit this Dollar Tree, I don't like to have my phone on in retail environments like I'm trying to film the store. People, one of the managers here will accuse me of, oh boy. I left all of my toxic work environments that didn't want to work with me to make me comfortable. I fucking left all of them. 5 years is longer than it ever took me, though. 2 was as long as I ever made it with, actually 3 was as long as I ever made it with a single company. And I only made it in 9-month stints before they had to transfer me because I couldn't fucking take the way my superiors spoke to me. So if you haven't tried to sit down and hey, these are my boundaries, this is how I want to be spoken to, these are the hours that I want to work, these are the kind of customers that I want to cope with. If you haven't tried that, I would try that first. But when you talk about toxic work environment, you're talking about like backstabbing, politics, fake people, get out. Just establish your own, man. Just make your own. Go work for somebody that you don't give a fuck. Take more than you're worth. Set back that percentage that's more than what you're worth and make your own. Do it right for yourself. That's how I would do it. Yeah, if you've already fought for your rights, then get out. Get out. It's like I told an ex, there's always another dumb bitch. There's always another corporation that'll pay you. Yes, hi Stacy. Yeah, retirement would be ideal. Just take what you've already earned and downsize your home to the smallest you can manage without feeling like you're homeless or like you're dependent on help from strangers. And then go and greet people at McDonald's or Walmart or whatever that place is called. All right, guys. You'll see me. Been retired. Yeah, heard that, Ghost Samurai. I've been retired since September. All right, you guys will see more from me, hear more from me for sure in about, I don't know, 30 minutes. Take care, guys.